Happy WNBA Monday. And Callie, it is that time of the year, though we've discussed it before, where everyone is talking about the MVP race. And for this WNBA season, in a MVP campaign that seemed to start off as like a clear front runner that nobody could get close to, now appears to look like it's going to be a photo finish to who will win this race. And Callie, the last time you were with me, I believe we talked about the MVP. And I got to tell you, some Aces fans, Asia fans, stands, I don't know what they were. They came for me, Callie. They did not like our conversation. They felt that I was not giving the Aces a chance, or you.
Oh, no.
But guess what? I don't care.
Oh.
Of course I care about you, but like, my opinion's my opinion. And I said what I said and I stand by what I said. But the thing about when you have a position on something is that with new information, you can change your opinion, Callie, right? And this looked like it was Napheesa Collier's award. And then Alyssa Thomas put herself in the race, and it looked like she was going to be the second person sort of battling out with her. And then Napheesa Collier gets injured. And A'ja Wilson decides, I don't know, like she wants to play like she did last year in her unanimous season. She just stepped it up another notch. She was always, I want to be very clear, that A'ja Wilson was always putting up MVP numbers, but she went on a tear. And now these are the numbers between them, Callie, okay? Look at these numbers. And honestly, for A'ja, she got hurt really early in a game versus the Liberty. So if that game didn't count against her because she only scored 2 points, even though she really didn't play the whole game, she would be averaging 24 points even right now. So basically in points, it's a statistical tie. Fee 7.6 rebounds, A'ja 10.2. The assists to me are notable. I mean, they're both posts, but like, you know what I mean? Like 3.4 assists and 3.1 assists from your post, that's huge, right? A'ja has more blocks, 2.2 blocks. Napheesa's field goal percentage, 54.3. She is hyper efficient, Callie. She's hyper efficient. A'ja has gotten that field goal percentage up. She was in a bit of a shooting slump to start the season. So she was under 50%. She still is, but she's close to 50%. And I think she's likely to get back to 50 before the season ends. It would be the first time in a few years that she didn't average 50% from the field, but still efficient, excellent numbers from both of them, okay? They don't really either one shoot that many threes, but Napheesa is taking more this year. She's over three per game and almost at 40% on those. She's around 38% on threes. And also, I want to just talk about free throws, even though we didn't show them, because that's a big part of A'ja's game. Some people complain about it. I say stop fouling her, okay? She's shooting, I think, 85% on free throws. Napheesa Collier is shooting 90% on free throws. She gets there a little bit less. I did a comp of those two, not because there aren't other candidates, but right now, at this point in time, on this day, Callie, the conversation seems to be about these two the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's good reason for that. Like you look at kind of the performances that A'ja's putting up, and she was doing a lot of this is timing. I mean, this is huge. The like Vegas odds, the betting odds have changed significantly in A'ja Wilson's favor. So now she's at plus 130. But I think before this 10-game win streak, it was a completely different story. So obviously the perception of the MVP race is changing, and that's what I was gonna kind of allude to is like this is because of the really timing. It's like Napheesa was out, and then during that time, A'ja leads her team to a league best win streak and all these different things, and she's doing it in such a wild fashion. We talked about the 30-point games and all these different things, but she's now the only player in WNBA history to have multiple seasons with more than 10 30-point games. And then she's also passed herself for the most games with 30 points and 10 rebounds over a single season in WNBA history with 9 such games. No one else this season has recorded more than one performance like that. And I feel like that type of impact, it's kind of like, it's really like you kind of got to pick your stance. And I think this is going to be a really interesting thing for WNBA voters. It's like, how do you view the MVP award? I got a lot of flack for asking Becky Hammond this, like, a few games ago. Like, how do you view
flack
it? Like, if you,
from
let's just
who?
say, oh, on social media, it was rough. It was rough when I posted the video, because at this point, yes, the Aces have stacked some wins. I think that maybe they were like on 7 straight wins or something like that. But still, I think people were questioning like where they would be in the playoff picture and all these different things. But you and I had spoken about the MVP race, so I asked Becky, like, I know that you've been in the media. How do you view the award as it pertains to WNBA? Like, let's just remove your team and all that from it. And she talks about, like, from her perspective, it's like the most dominant player, regardless of team. Like,
Right.
you know, you could put them on any team and they would be the most dominant player. I think that's an interesting stance, but that's not how everybody views the award, right? Like, some people view it like it's the best player on the best team, or there are all these different ways to like approach the MVP conversation. Ultimately, I think that this is a really fun way to just look at the excellence that we're seeing. I think when we look back at this year, we're going to say, wow, this was like another one of those incredible seasons where we had a real race. And we've seen this before. You know what I mean? Where it's like, a lot of times it's like, okay, is it going to be Asia this year? Is it going to be Stewie or whatever? But like, we've had a lot of seasons where Alyssa Thomas has made it interesting, where Napheesa has made it interesting. And now it's like, we've got it all at once, maybe minus one of those players. I don't know. But I do think that, like, it's at the end of the day, it's an interesting conversation. And that's really what it comes down to me.
Yeah. So for anyone who may have missed our prior conversation, and I mean, we talked about a lot of things. We also talked about Defensive Player of the Year, which I'm not going to get into. But we were kind of talking about like MVP philosophy. And
Yes.
there are things that I agree. Like, people are like the best player on the best team. I feel like sometimes people hear that and they take that definition literally. It doesn't literally always mean that. It's just meaning like a player who's from a top team, you know,
Right.
and 1 through 3, 4-ish seeds, you know what I mean? Your team is performing, you were putting up MVP level numbers, and that's, you know, the MVP usually comes from a top team, and you have to be putting up certain kinds of numbers. And so, like, yeah, Becky can say what she wants to say now, but there's a reason we didn't hear the Aces pushing Asia for MVP until right now, because you just could not have a legitimate case for it with the way that they were performing. But now, in their last 10 games, they've moved up to second in the standings. These are her averages over the last 10 games. This is bonkers.
Yeah.
50, 40, 90
43.
essentially. And yeah, she doesn't have the volume on threes, though she's been taking a little bit more lately, but 50, 40, 90. All like she's averaging 33, like 27 points. I'm sorry. Like, this is just insanity, you know? And so, but the biggest reason that she can now be in the conversation is because her team has improved, right? Like,
Yeah.
if Asia was putting up these stats, but they were still 7th, 8th, she still wouldn't be in the conversation. And like, some people don't agree with that, but that's just the reality. And so for me, you know, when you look at it, everyone's different. But I think at this point, it's like almost like, yes, you have to take everything into account now. But I feel you just judge the candidates on a level playing field, as in like, there's whatever, 6, 7 games left, depending on your team. And how does each close out the season, right? They've all missed games, but Fee has, of course, missed the most games. And I think that's going to be the biggest knock in Napheesa Collier's case. I want to be very clear. I do not think she should be knocked because her team won without her. That's silly to me. Go back and watch our prior segment if you want to see that. And I thought that Cheryl Reeve gave a really eloquent answer about that, because like, you build a team around an MVP, but like, you still have to build a good team. Like, we consider teams contenders because they are good teams, right? There was a time when the Aces were really killing it. They could have won a game or 2 or 3, depending on who the opponent is, without Asia, right? And so we didn't penalize Asia for that. You don't penalize, in my opinion, people for having good teammates or better constructed rosters, because that's unfair. The other thing that happens often in an MVP race is recency bias. So because of this tear Asia has been on, it's very easy to be like, she deserves the MVP. She got her team back to 2, all those things. And that's great. And if that's what you want to make your case on, sure. But I just want to contextualize that a little bit. the 10-game win streak is impressive, no matter what. But the reason that they could move up is because the other teams did not create separation in the standings. Every team except for one, the Minnesota Lynx. And that separation was created with Napheesa Collier playing. And it is incredibly valuable to give your team a 6-game gap amongst the field that nobody can catch you guys, and to give you cushion so that if you get hurt and if they do lose some games, no, they didn't lose many, but if they do, you'd be okay. That's incredibly valuable. And that happened because Napheesa Collier is their MVP. And and we could just take the most recent game between the Indiana Fever. The Minnesota Lynx won that game. They eked it out. They almost lost it without Fee. And then Fee comes back and they beat them by double digits. The idea that she doesn't really make them better is crazy. The difference between who more on and off the court, that's going to vary. But they are substantially better with Napheesa Collier. And so the games played, if she plays the rest of the season, Callie, she's going to end up playing about 77% of the games. It would bring her to 33 games. I don't know if that's enough. I want to be clear that the WNBA doesn't require a certain game minimum, but I think it's going to be taken into account. And so if you're someone who feels that she hasn't played enough games, then that alone might be disqualifying for you to make her the actual MVP. But I have there listed what, if each of these players plays the rest of the season, that would have been what their remaining games would be.
Yeah. I guess I want to like note something that you said. You mentioned that like a player should not be penalized for being on a good team, which I agree with. I do think like there are a lot of fans and like a part of the discourse is like, but we have seen players penalized for being on good teams in the past. I think that's like the narrative surrounding, I think the 2023
I'm sorry.
MVP.
So, that's a false argument to me. I want to, because the argument they're making is that because Asia, and Becky Hammond said this, like, I rested her a lot in fourth quarters, and if I didn't, she would have played and got more points, and she would have won. That's debatable. Alyssa Thomas that year, I want to remind people, got the most first place votes. So most of the media thought Alyssa Thomas should win the award. But because we do ranked voting in the MVP award, you can win getting the most second place votes, you know? So I don't think she was penalized because she was on a good team. There were really 3 good candidates that year. And I feel like people have to acknowledge that. Like, you can't just say, and the Liberty were a stacked team. Like, so if someone was really getting penalized, then how could Breanna Stewart win? And I don't want to get into all of the, well, you know, that's when people say there's bias and da-da-da. Like, I'm not trying to suggest that there is not some bias that exists. What I'm saying is we have to get from a place where I think many Asia fans make arguments like LeBron fans do in the NBA, which is she's the best player in the league, which I agree with, best player in the world. And so she should win MVP every year. And there are times that you can be the best player, you can still have an MVP level season, but other people can have also an MVP level season. And whatever the different reasons are, they may end up winning MVP over you. And, you know, I truly do not believe she was penalized for being on a good team because she won in 2022, right? Was she not on a good team then as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they were getting super team allegations in 2022 like they were in 2023. But I do think, I don't know, what you said just now kind of reminded me of
But the Lynx aren't considered a super team, right?
No, I mean, I've never heard anybody refer to the Lynx as a super team. So I do think, though, I mean, they are a very strong team. They're the number 1 team in the league and things like that. I don't know. I know we're running out of time, so I won't.
No. I want you to make your point because I really think this is important. So go ahead.
Well, I think what I was just saying is like they are an incredibly strong team. And I think that the argument that people are making is because of how strong they've been in her absence. Again, like you don't want her to be penalized for that. But I think that like that's how we get there. It's like this like
but that's a
conversation.
That's a misguided argument. To me, honestly, I'm not, with all due respect, it's a lazy argument. And it also suggests that you don't understand basketball. And the reason I'm saying that is because
I don't understand.
No, not
basketball.
you. The people who make that argument, because people are saying they're so strong without her. That's literally based on wins, losses. That's all they're looking at. Yeah. They won. It's not based on how they perform. What's the difference? Those margin of victories were not as large. Also, let me give a hypothetical. If the Aces playing like they are right now lost A'ja Wilson, and they had to play those 3 games against the Chicago Sky without her and won them, is she not the MVP? No. People would be like, it's the Chicago Sky. Of course they're a beatable team. People are not looking at...
I don't agree with that at all. I do think that because then it's like Asia's missing games and all the conversation changes significantly.
Right, but I'm just saying, it was the same thing when the Liberty first lost Breanna Stewart. Me and Roz sat up here and looked at their schedule and said, you know what? This is a really favorable schedule for them, right? So they should be able to win these games. No one thought, because they could win these games without Breanna, that doesn't make her an MVP level player. We're saying we're looking at the matchups and saying these are games you should be able to win. That's the only thing that happened. If you literally can look at what the team's performance is without Napheesa Collier, they are an average team. They would be around 500 or slightly above average. That is not a great team without their MVP. And they played other average teams. The names of the teams were not average. But the New York Liberty, they were also missing Breanna Stewart. That means the Minnesota Lynx without Napheesa Collier played the New York Liberty without Breanna Stewart. Those are 2 comparable teams, okay? They played the Washington Mystics. They're 4 games right now below 500 or something like that. They played the Phoenix Mercury without Alyssa Thomas and Kalia Copper. So no one talks about who was on the other side, right? So you're just saying they won. Well, yeah, because they played that team without Fee can beat the teams that they played without Fee. And that's my only point. And so if you're not looking at the opponent, if you're not looking at anything that changes, like, well, they got the win. Well, yeah, they did. But that's because they had a favorable schedule. They also had 6 days off. So they had a lot of days where they didn't have to play games. All of those things are fortunate things that helped. But no one talks about that. They're just like, well, they won, so clearly they're not that worse without her. And that's a very disingenuous argument. That's all I'm saying. It's misguided.
Yeah, I do think that that's part of it too. I also wonder, and I'm not making an argument here. I'm just kind of like noting things that I think are like part of this conversation. And I do think even like what you kind of mentioned this earlier, you were talking about how like Becky mentioned that like in 2023, A'ja didn't really have to play in fourth quarters and all these things. But like Napheesa Collier does play in fourth quarters, even a lot of times when she like doesn't have to. And I think like that impacts her stats. And like, I think if you're watching the games, you see that like there are a lot of times when you're like,
but doesn't have to is a subjective standard.
Have to be on the court?
Right, but see, that's subjective. But But Cheryl Reeve explained her position on it. So this coach has won multiple championships, right? And so I
do think though. I covered the game where she got hurt because she was playing in the fourth quarter.
I get it, but there was also somebody coming to sub in.
Lead.
Right, but there was also someone coming to sub in. That's a personal thing.
But the Aces had like subbed out all of their starters.
I understand.
Like, well before.
I understand.
So it's things like that kind of just make you like scratch your head. It's all these things. But whether she's nuanced and like.
But whether she's playing or not, who cares? That's her coach's decision. The end of the day is she played, and those were her stats. Like you can't be like, well, she's playing and she shouldn't be playing. That's your opinion. I wouldn't have been playing her. I would have taken her out. But I'm
not saying she shouldn't be playing.
Hold on. If
the thing is like a subjective. It's not an objective award. Otherwise, it would just be auto-picked, like from the.
It's a subjective award, but saying like, you know what, Napheesa's stats are like, there's not that many games where Napheesa is like playing where like, oh, she should be out. And also, like, didn't the Phoenix Mercury let Alyssa Thomas come back in to get triple doubles? And isn't a big part of her MVP case all of the triple doubles that she's getting? Is that okay?
I'm not disagreeing. Listen, I'm not taking a stance. I do think, even the game that you just mentioned, the one where they beat the Lynx beat the Indiana Fever by a much larger margin than they did without Fee. And guess what? It's because Fee was on the court in the fourth quarter to get to that like 30 burger. You know what I'm saying? It's not I'm
no,
not saying it's a bad
but you're
thing.
saying she was on the court to
Like-
that 30 burger, but I really fundamentally disagree. That game was not intact. I don't know if someone like, if you were watching that game, the game was not decided. So I don't know. In the WNBA, in basketball period right now, where you have the 3-point shot is the great equalizer, most coaches do not consider a game over with a 10-point lead. I think if you surveyed most coaches, and with a player like Kelsey Mitchell on the other side who can make threes, so like I feel like.
Well, also some people say should be in the MVP conversation. She had 26 points in that game.
Yeah, you're not going to be in the MVP conversation when you're an 8th seed. So with all just respect to her, that's a question of all WNBA. But I'm just saying, my point is, because I know people are going to be like, see, this is why we know Natalie wants Napheesa to be MVP. I actually don't care who wins MVP. They are all qualified. So I'm saying that very clearly. But I'm just saying these are bad faith arguments, in my opinion. I don't believe anyone, I've never seen anybody in the media make these arguments. I see Asia fans make those arguments. And so I know you're just like kind of presenting the discourse, but those are bad faith arguments, because we are not going to question Cheryl Reeve. Listen, I'm not saying that I agree with the decision. I would have taken Fee out, but literally a sub was there. A sub was waiting to come out. It's a contact injury. She could have come out earlier, not gotten injured, and then got injured the next game. But now people want to harp on that because she was in that game playing. Like, when contact sports happen in injury, I can't sit there and hypothesize over this or that or whatever. It just is what it is. It happened. But because it happened, it did allow A'ja Wilson to get back in the race. Because I think even if the Aces move up, and I think even if A'ja is playing the way that she did, right? If Napheesa Collier is still playing and she's still having really strong games, right? Then I'm not saying that A'ja doesn't close the gap, but you know how it is, out of mind, out of sight. Fee wasn't playing. But not only was she not playing, now you have all these games that you missed. And being available to play is a big part of MVP. So I do think if you want to ding someone for the games played, I think that's a valid argument, you know? And so that's now what she's put herself up against. But whether or not her coach played her like to get to points, we don't know that. That's speculation. Whether you think she should have or shouldn't, like, we don't know that. And Cheryl Reeve offered her explanation for that. So we can't like speculate on that and then be like, okay, so because of that, like she's I don't know what people are trying to suggest, stat padding. And so like what, discount some of her stats? What, even if you accept that as reality, what are we supposed to do with that? Am I supposed to go back and look at each game and watch them and make a determination of, okay, she was stat padding here. And so her real point total in this game is 23 instead of 28. I mean, what am I even supposed to do with that information, you know?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think, you know, you said that a lot of the art, like the things that I was pointing out are things that you hear from Asia fans. I'm kind of just pointing out things that I feel like you mentioned that like the Aces wouldn't be making a case for like A'ja MVP unless the team was improving. Like, no, they're being like, Becky's being asked about A'ja and MVP because the team has improved. Like a lot of this is like narrative based. It's not like the team is, you know, it's not just coming from the team organically. Like they're getting asked game after game. I'm in the pressers. So like those are the things I'm noticing.
But why are they being asked? Why are they being asked now versus not being asked?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying because the team has improved, but you're making it seem like they're just like out of the blue. I'm not even saying you're making it seem like that. I want to point out that like it's not like they're just like out of the blue making these arguments. But my point in like bringing that up was I don't think that these are like only things that you're seeing from fan discourse, because I'm not even really like that looked into fan discourse. A lot of this is stuff that like it comes up in the pressers, like the narratives, like the way that questions are being asked and all these different things. So that's kind of what I'm alluding to. I know you're saying this is bad faith arguments from fans. I don't engage in that, so I don't really want to be like, you know, I don't want that to be the situation. I'm saying it's bad faith
arguments from fans because I do, with all due respect, I think a lot of people go to pressers and they ask teams about stuff that there's discourse about online. So it might be media questions being asked, but look, I don't know every member of the media, but I talk to many members of the media, and I have not heard anyone say any of these things. So it doesn't mean that they're not thinking it. I don't know. I'm not in their head, but I haven't heard anyone say the kind of stuff like this. So from my anecdotal evidence, I haven't seen it. And we've seen teams campaign for their players. We've seen the Phoenix Mercury campaign for Alyssa Thomas. The Lynx have campaigned for Fee. They've said it. In the past, Becky Hammon has no problem being like, A'ja Wilson is this and calling it whatever without being asked. And so when I say that, I'm just basing it off their history and what I've observed them do, right? And I expect that before the season ends, we will see tweets from their social media account advocating for A'ja to be MVP. So I'm not
I mean, they
saying,
already have. The Aces are advocating. I'm just saying, like, none, and I can say this because I don't miss a presser. Like, it's none of the MVP discourse that you've gotten from Becky or like anybody associated with the Aces, unless it's on like Twitter from their team page, has come unprompted. Like, it's been
right. That wasn't my point.
They've been getting asked.
I'm just saying she wouldn't. I'm just saying they wouldn't. It's not about Becky specifically. I'm saying the reason we haven't heard her unprompted, the reason there hasn't been any discourse, the reason there hasn't been questions asked is because everyone understood the Aces were not performing. And so she was not a top candidate as of a couple of weeks ago. And now she is. So we'll see how the race plays out. Unfortunately, we couldn't address the so-called, I'm not saying so-called, let me take that back because that sounds really bad. But there's a lot of people, like you mentioned, Kelsey Mitchell, who just got, we've heard her name lately, and the Fever were wearing, shirts for her. And
and Nneka Ogwumike, they're about to start campaigning for her. Right. So,
listen, if you're a bottom seed, people are not going to consider you for MVP. So I'm just, with all due respect, those players have great years, and I think we'll be looking at them for all WNBA. But I framed this, we talked about A'ja and Fee because that's who the conversation seems to be centered around right now. That's who the Vegas odds show as like sort of almost in a really close race. But I do think the other person who can make it really interesting is Alyssa Thomas. And also shout out to Alicia Gray. Her name has come up as well. I believe she'll be first team all WNBA. I'm not sure if she can pull off the MVP, but we will see. They have, again, 6 to 7 games, depending on your team, to do something to maybe change our minds. And if A'ja could close the gap in a matter of 10 games, then I think 7 games is enough for someone to switch the conversation back to them. So we will see. I'm excited. I literally don't know right now who should be MVP. I'm not just saying that. I truly don't know. But everyone needs to understand that I'm a lawyer. And if you tell me fugazi things, I'm going to just like push back against it. It's not about who I want to win. I hate when people give me bad faith stuff. And no, I don't think Callie is giving me bad faith arguments. Callie's the bomb. But yeah, that's what we do. We're going to just talk about what people are talking about and then break it down. So that's what it is. So Aces fans, A'ja fans, if you're still upset, oh well. Okay? I'm not, my job is not to be a stan. It is to talk about things. Pros, cons, everything. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the world. I love watching her play. I love bigging her up and hyping her up as I do other players in the league. And we will continue to do that, just like we will talk about the MVP race. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us on the WNBA on NBC. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's it.